Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Leech on Podcast, where I'm Leech on to a certain topic for 15 minutes or more. Now, again, I usually like to start off once I've got my roll going, asking, how did you guys hear about me? Down below, I actually have a pretty public comment section. So if you guys want to put down below where you guys have heard of me, if it's by recommendation or if it's my Instagram stories or if I personally tracked you down and was like, hey, come watch my podcast. What can I say? Then I'm glad you're here. No matter how you heard about me, I'm really glad you're here. And usually I like to post a lot more regularly, but I have not been able to because I've actually been very busy with homecoming. And I really am. What I'm about to talk about today, I really can start from a bigger moments before from this, but I really like to say that I love talking. I really like to say that I can really get a conversation going because that's one of my favorite things to do is talk. And it's not about myself. I like to learn as much as I can, and I get a lot of that by talking to other people. Perfect examples is when I travel. More often times than not, I like to engage conversations with the waiters just to see what their backstory is. There's a destiny that I got that waiter, not another waiter. So I always like to kick it back and get to see what's a waiter's favorite foods, are they experiencing high volumes today, whatever it may be, just to get a little conversation going. And in return, honestly, my food ends up being a lot better anyways, so they must have left a little message to the chef back there. Hey, table over there, girl over there, kicking up a good conversation, make the steak extra good, extra juicy. But no matter what it may be, I also like to talk to crowds. I think that's the best way I get awesome engagement. I mean, in here, I get to be a bit more quirky and awkward, I guess, because it's really just me in here. But I tend, more times than not, just imagine that I'm talking to a really large crowd. Somebody's like, I would be very honored if my face is like on a television and everybody's just crowding around the television just watching. But most of the times, I get pictures of people having me on their like YouTube TV. It's like their background music to go to sleep. So maybe one episode I'll do ASMR. You guys let me know, I'll do it. But I have never had a crowd that I have faced as grand as I did last Friday. Today is Saturday the 5th. You're probably going to see this on Tuesday because I like to upload on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But I did not have the biggest crowd I have ever faced was Friday, October 3rd, in driving through in a parade through the city, being able to engage with people on the sidelines, most of them being kids who are just eager and pointing at the car. Also, sidebar, I didn't really know what homecoming was either because it's nothing like my parents went through. But homecoming is usually a event where alumni of the high school or college or university will return to, kind of like have a reunion, but it's not an organized reunion like a class reunion, but it's more just like you come back home for the holidays to enjoy a game. For some people, it's their soccer games. For some people, it's their volleyball games, lacrosse, whatever. For the town I'm in, it's a football game, and like I said, my parents are alumni of the high school I went through to, so I got to see a lot more graduates from when I was a freshman, from when I was a sophomore, from when I was a junior, and it was really nice to be there and share that space with people who are no longer there, people who have went on and done big things with their life and they came back home. And so the way that homecoming works in my town is that every club that the school offers, they will do voting among their club and pick a person to be nominated for that club. Then once you've got all the girls that are nominated for a club, you then nominate the top 5 girls that you think should be on a court. And these are supposed to be the top 5 girls that would represent out of the best pick of the other people from the clubs. And then from the 5, you pick one to be the queen. I'm really grateful I got nominated by STEM Club. A lot of people actually don't know what a STEM Club is. It's a science, technology, engineering, and mathematics club, which, funny enough, I really have always had hobbies in all of those areas and departments as hobby as they can get. Like with science, I've always just messed around with random stuff, trying to find most ways to conserve things and play around with that. Technology, I'm a big tech nerd. As you guys can see my setup, I freaking love technology in my own ways. Like I say, I dabble in my own ways. I've gotten viruses off of my dad's computers, and there have been times that there was a part in my life where I really wanted to design websites, and then I was like, that's one of those things that you have to get your own like portfolio, and that's a harder thing to find. So I ended up kind of leaving my tech life there, but occasionally I tend to play around with stuff. I have done a lot of research on my computer and my computer pieces. Have I built my first computer yet? No. But I did help a friend in building their own computer, and that was really fun in the sense that I got to, put the motherboard, drill it back in. So as much as I could help, I did. But we're not really drill, but screw, because these things are really delicate. So I was in there. I was literally shaking. I was like, yeah. There's a hole, there's a screw. So I was honored to be alongside of that. And then with engineering, I mean, the best way I think of engineering is just Legos. I've always had a knack for Legos and quite the imagination as well. And mathematics, math's math. But anyways, I've always had hobbies in all of the respective areas of STEM, and it's actually one of the first student-led clubs in my high school, student-founded, student-led with a council, and I really wanted to be a part of alongside being in that club. So I had joined the club last year and got a leadership role this year that it really just is an honor to have a leadership role and be honored to have that, and then also be voted in to represent a club like that. I was very honored, and I had collaborated and worked alongside the founder of the club to provide me a ride for the parade and be able to design posters and be able to put myself out there, and I'm really honored and grateful for that opportunity and being nominated. And then I don't get to go to school a lot because I do online college classes and I work most of the time, but not even most of the time. I work 4 days of a 5-day work week, with Fridays being off to do my school work. And so I don't usually get to be at school, but I still show up to school for most club meetings, and I had the honor and recognition to be voted in for the top 5 girls, and that was honestly astonishing to me, because my first goal was just to be nominated. I really just at least wanted to dress up and put myself out there, because I don't do a lot of formal events. I've only been to one wedding in my life, and then I went to prom, so I don't really have the excuse to dress up and dress out most of the time, so I really wanted to have a reason to do that. And another side note is that I did wear a suit. I think when it comes to my comfortability, I just don't like me in a dress. It's not a visual thing, and I think that's what I'll get into it a bit more later. I'll get into more details, but just to note, I did wear a suit, and it was pretty awesome because I got to match the suit to the car I was riding in. Actually, it was a Pacemaker convertible Corvette from 1998. I'm not a big car person. I would love to be. Cars are really cool, but that's as much detail as I can give. It's pretty cool. It has pretty cool vinyls on it and designs. It's flames and lines. I don't know. But again, honored to be riding, and also such a sick vehicle. I wouldn't know what to ride in. My little Hyundai Elantra wouldn't have been equally as sick as that. But sorry, I'm a little stopped up. But and then to be able to go through the routines that all the other girls did, and to be able to put my podcast, honestly, the neat thing about winning court is that you get to put some of your accomplishments or things that you want to be recognized for and things that you do in your free time. And I was able to put this podcast. I sometimes don't really realize how long I've been doing this for. I've been doing this since my 7th grade year, and to know that I've always opened polls since then and have been able to help with different situations. And honestly, a big part of this is also one of my biggest audio journals, that I see what I'm going through in certain times of my life and try to help you guys just as much as I'm trying to help me through these moments, and to realize that, wow, I've went through a lot of stuff, and most of the time, I try, one of my biggest things on doing this podcast is that I will never name reveal or put other people's information out there, because that's not what this is about. This is a safe space where I want you guys to come out to me for advice or any type of input in needing another perspective on whatever you guys are going through. I always want to provide that, and to know that I've gotten so much feedback on people who have given me advice and have listened to these episodes and been like, wow, that's exactly what I need to hear. Thank you so much for being there and being able to help them even outside of my podcast. That's always my goal, and that's why I have this. I do have a Discord, but I would never want to put a big Discord community, considering that I'm from such a small town that things can be screenshotted, things can be leaked. So I always try to keep these conversations one-on-one in direct messages or even in person. So for that to say that if you guys ever need anything, I think I have my contact information on my Spotify. If not, I can always work around that. But if anything, just always reaching out to me personally. I'm here no matter what. And to really be able to put my podcast in a moment with a crowd that was as big as the one I had Friday night was also just really beautiful to know that there were probably people in there who had no idea that there was such an opportunity, or there was such a community or a person like me that would be willing to offer the services that I do. And I know that I say my podcast is a lot of my audio journal, but a lot of it is also just to provide support and be open-minded and talk about anything like silly things with my friends, or be a little bit more serious and be able to have other people share their knowledge on here and have their voice heard on the platform that I share. I do not have thousands and tens and thousands of listeners, and that is one of my biggest goals, is to reach a consistent 1,000 listeners on here. But until then, I like to keep it just a small knit community where I'm always available and I'm always comfortable to talk. And with comfortability, it really comes into that being my largest crowd Friday night. I had a lot of backlash that I'm grateful that I did not have and hear with my own ears, but to know that it got back to me the night after was breaking. It broke me a tiny bit, because the biggest criticism I got from anything Friday night was my attire. And I think to know that was the worst people could say about me was the fact that I was wearing something that I was comfortable in. Stung. It stung in the sense that I broke a norm. And that's to say throughout history, yes, my high school has had participants wear a suit before, but I've never had a top 5 court residing member wear a suit before, I believe, from what I heard. So to know that I even marked a point for other people younger than me to feel comfortable and been like, hey, well, I can wear a suit because there's been a girl on court already. They don't even have to know my name, but just to be like, hey, a girl went as far as court. I can't wait to come back to homecoming as a spectator and have the day where someone wears a suit and is queen. And that's to say that I'm very open with my sexuality. That's something I will never hide. I've came a long way, and at times, I tend to forget that I have been able to get as far as I have because of my community and my family, and to know that I am able to be out and be proud of who I am and what I like and what I identify as, and a lot of other people don't have the same access to. And that was one of the biggest things I realized when I decided to wear a suit and cut my hair short. And that's to say I don't even have my piercings in, but to also just be recognized as with the style I do. My goal is to never represent something that I'm not. I just like to be comfortable. I was really comfortable in my suit. I did not have any blisters on my feet from heels that I heard a lot of other participants complaining about. I was able to bend down and not have any shame. It got colder in the night and I was warm because I had this blazer on. So honestly, I was really comfortable. I had a great time. I did not have any issues in what I was wearing. I was 100% comfortable in all of it throughout the whole night. And to know that the only negative thing that people in the student section could have said, football players, and even people in my own nomination that were nominated alongside of me and I took pictures with alongside, had negative to say was about my attire. And that was a really difficult thing to process, in the sense that I went into this knowing that, people could say something, but that's fine. I'm not going to let it tear me down. I went in with knowing that, okay, this is what I'm going to do for me. Because like I said, I'm comfortable. I like this. I match the color of the car. I feel good. I look good. And that I'm really glad, again, I didn't hear anything about it the night of. It was all after. It is a bit heartbreaking that people still can go out of their own way to say something negative about somebody else being comfortable. It's not like I wore this and I was like uptight the whole time and you could tell I was miserable. No, I was very comfortable. If anything, I probably would have been a lot more miserable in a dress. And it just sucks that people have to use such derogative terms and honestly even offensive words into insulting not my character. Once again, this has nothing to do with my character. It's more with what I identify as and what I'm comfortable in. And I like to set time aside to remember, yes, it is everybody's first time living, and that does suck. But I think it hurts a little harder when these people, I have never thought the same about them or their character. Like, oh, wow, well, like, why are they wearing that? Or why they do this? Or why they do that? And honestly, to know that some things were said about me, and these are people I've never interacted with either, it's kind of just like, oh, man, like, their first impression of me was on this field, and that the worst thing that they have to say was about my attire. Not even the color, mind you. Nothing about the color, nothing about the color combination, nothing about the way it really necessarily fit me. Like, they weren't like, oh, wow, she looks fat, she looks ugly. No, it's the fact that I'm wearing a suit. Then it's like, okay, well, suit girl equals something, an abomination that isn't accustomed because I am in a southern town. And then to then go on and attack a part of my identity that I reside with i.e. my sexuality. And it was a difficult thing. But another big thing that I'm grateful for is how progressive my community is. And to know that there were members and there were people who had heard that and were willing to stand up for not even just me, but to know that they heard active bullying near them and were willing to get a voice to speak up about that is a step out of anybody's comfort zone. I mean, I know that I can comfortably say that I would be somebody of character to do that, but it's taken me failed attempts and successful attempts of getting out of my comfort zone and confronting to get to comfortably be able to do it, no matter where I'm at, no matter who I'm around. And to know that I had a lot of people 10 toes behind me also almost brought me to tears. And it's like, because I didn't have any of these conversations in person. I heard all of this through text and Snapchats the night of Friday night, honestly Friday night into Saturday morning at like 12 and 1. But to know that there are still people in this community who can see stuff like that and speak up out against it is very moving. And I never would support somebody having to attack somebody else's character to prove a point. Like, oh, wow, you're talking about that girl in a suit? Well, that's why you're ugly. Burn. So I never support backing up and people who support me like that, because you genuinely can't fight fire with fire, whether they're right or they're wrong. You never have to go after somebody else's character because they went after my character. I would never support something like that. But to know that people want to do and speak out about it justly and be able to approach authority very correctly and properly and appropriately, honestly, and just be able to be like, hey, this is what was said about leaders in our student section regarding another student representing Kings Mountain. That's not right. Let's do something about it. Let's give repercussions where they're due, because I know that whether I was up there or not, I would have never returned such words that were said about me in the night that did. And one of the biggest reminders that I usually get in a lot of the younger people I have access to mentor or that I engage with in a lot of my other clubs is mainly one of the biggest factors of the fear of being themselves. And it's one of those things that moves me. I'm probably about to start tearing up, but it's one of those things that moves me really strongly, because I've had to go through a lot of trials and tribulations to be the person I am today. It's never an easy journey to get the clothes and cut my hair short and get piercings and put myself out there the way that I do. It wasn't easy at all. I have done it and have failed. I have done it and regressed. I mean, there have been times that I genuinely don't even want to show up for myself because I started to get a little lazy too, and had received more criticism than appraisal on who I was, that I genuinely forgot my worth for the longest. And to know that a lot of people look up to me in the steps that I take and in the trail that I leave for a lot of other people to follow into gaining comfortability for themselves is such a beautiful thing that I will always support. I always think 100% people should be themselves. If you think that, and one of my biggest things that breaks my heart is when I'm talking to somebody and they laugh and they're like, oh, sorry, I'm laughing too loudly, or oh, I'm sorry, I sound so dumb. And I'm like, no, like that thought did not cross my mind at all. Like, don't beat yourself up, because I'm for sure not thinking anything in my head. Like, if anything, I'm laughing along or probably being 10 times louder. And it's okay. It's a safe space to do all that. And I do take, once again, I take time aside to realize, yes, it is everybody's first time living. It is. Those people that had something negative to say about me Friday night are struggling with something internally that they felt the right to say, to say their thoughts out loud. Something in them couldn't be quiet and think it to themselves, that they had to share it among a group think type of thing. Like, everybody was thinking the same thing, but somebody had to take the first step to say it. And to know that it wasn't just one person also does suck. But at the end of the day, I know that this is probably the only I'm probably the only oddball that they've ever encountered. And I cannot sit here and be like, oh, well, they shouldn't think that way, when for some people their environments are raised to hate on things that are different or hate on things that are not the norm. Me wearing a suit in a small southern town is 100% not the norm. And not saying that it needs to be the new norm. I think the new norm should be people going out there and wearing what makes them feel comfortable. If some girl felt a lot more comfortable in a romper or a jumpsuit, I definitely think that she would went out of their way to wear that. And I mean, to even hear criticisms when I had went to one of my formal National Honors Society induction ceremonies, and they had attire, obviously could be a polo or khakis, or obviously if you do wear a dress, it has to cover a lot of your more vulnerable areas. And to know that somebody has shown up and wearing not a blazer, but just like a blouse, like a button-up blouse and some high-rise kind of it's not blazer, but trousers, I don't know what the word is. And the first thing that they could say in an insult to themselves is, quote, "I look like a lesbian right now," end quote. Does get a bit degrading at times. So I definitely, Friday night was not the first time I have been exposed to such a comment that insults my character or what I identify as, or even a group of people in a community that I reside amongst. But, comments like that I have been exposed to over time. I've gotten hate comments online. I've gotten hate comments on Twitter. I have gotten hate comments to my face. And I am so comfortable in who I am and in being what I represent that the comments weren't nothing more than me to uprise or for me to confront. Because there are matters that I do confront, and there are matters that I put my energy into and stand up for what I believe in, because those are things that I think my voice deserves to be raised in. But to stoop down and match a level of where people are sharing hatred, and the only thing I could do is most likely try to shut them up, and have to lower my conscience down there to match them and to be able to prove a point, is something I would never waste energy on. And I would never want to dismiss people that also want to bring a change and hold these people accountable, because I do agree that those people should be held accountable. But to say that I'm going to be the one to put in their face that they should be held accountable is not my role, because although I was there, I wasn't there to hear with my own ears. And as much as I love myself and respect myself and would always stand up for myself, people hating from outside of the club because they can't get in is something I would never stoop my level to. And that's not me being full of my head or anything like that. It's just it is a jealousy fact, and that's nothing I can remind in somebody's face, you know. There have been times I've been jealous, and I know that the worst thing on being jealous is somebody being like, "Hey, you're jealous." Oh no, that you do not want to remind a jealous person that they're jealous, because that would uprise a different roar. That I just don't, it's not that I don't feel comfortable in it, it's just I know I'm so sure of myself that me approaching them would more make it seem like they are right. And that's something that I'll never give into, because I know what I felt comfortable in wearing that night. I know what I represented in that night is an opportunity that I have always been grateful for. And with that, I tend to always give the advice, be yourself. I think if there's any advice I could like tattoo on my forehead, it is showing up as the most authentic version of you. And there are people who have been authentically themselves, and I just don't click with. But I would never give disrespect to their character or to what they show up as, because that's not my place. It's just the matter of fact of it's just the past don't align, and that's okay. But it's sad to see that because people's paths can't align, there has to be something negative towards it, and that's never the case. Sometimes you outgrow people. Sometimes your soul has to be replotted in different areas, and it's just incompatible. But incompatibility never has to result into being rude or being unkind or exchanging words, because most of the time that just starts a bigger uprise and ordeal that it doesn't need to be. I've been a part of multiple conflicts and drama, and that being because I did share my honest input, and it probably wasn't asked for, and then that creates a bigger ordeal, and then a bunch of he said, she said stuff. That at the end of the day, I sit with knowing where my presence is appreciated and where it's not, and I pour love, time, and energy into crowds that would support me. And I think one of the biggest things Friday night that I didn't let myself get worked up about, because I was like, I know, I'm going to be strong. If I break my character, it's going to be sad. I'm not going to do it. But is seeing how many people out there had cheered me on and had supported me, because that's one of the biggest things that was my next goal. My next goal wasn't necessarily to exactly win Queen or anything like that. But my next goal of that night was, after winning court and they had said my name and had seen that I was being escorted by my mother, was hearing the specific voices of people who cheered me on. I wouldn't have cared if the rest of the stadium was quiet, as long as the people that I have engaged with and have left an impact on my life had raised their voice. That was the biggest thing. And I kind of already suspected that I was going to get at least a little noise, because my family was there. And if the only people who made noise that night was my family, I would have been satisfied with that, just as long as I knew that the noise was coming from people who had loved and cherished and supported me. And to know that that was what I had very much heard Friday night will always move me in a way that I could never explain. It moved me into waves of gratitude that I could never print down on paper and be able to touch. That was a feeling that I'm forever grateful to, again, experience, and to be in a open room full of people who were excited in taking pictures with me and excited in being able to congratulate me is a feeling that I always want to be up here and to be able to talk about, and not ever in a boastful way, but in a way that if I continue my podcast, I'm able to, in college, and I'm able to be like, wow, like, man, homecoming really was a very meaningful event to me because I was surrounded in a room, an open room, full of people I loved. And at the end of the day, like I always said, my favorite advice to preach is 100% be you and be unapologetically you. Because people who are meant for you and who are there to love you and support you will show up with no judgment. If you are being you and people have things to say about it in front of your face or behind your back, because I will be honest, high school, it's inevitable. People will be two-faced. Will I say that I'm two-faced? Boy, no. If I do not like you, I will let you know. And that's to say that it's not that, I'm going to be rude. But it's just genuinely, and I really could talk about that. I think people really do get confused with being respectful and friendly. Because being friendly is all like, hey girl, what's up? Oh my gosh, you look good. You want to walk around? You want to walk around a little bit? Yeah, let's go. You are wanting to spend time with me, yet you very much are quick to tell somebody else that you don't like me and go drag my name through the mud. No. But if it were on the other hand, hey, you clean up well. Congratulations. I'm excited for the big night. Wish you the best of luck. Very much respectful. And you can say it in a different tone. Obviously, oh, wow, you clean up nice. Yeah, I'm really excited to go through this night. And congratulations again. That is very respectful. But I think people tend to, like, when you stick that extra arm out in friendliness and you do not like that person, you don't need to stick that arm out. You're doing nothing but genuinely being ungenuine. So might as well not. And I think that a lot of people in high school will do that, and then and if you take that opportunity with them, have fun in the moment, and then they'll go back and tell everybody else, oh my god, I couldn't fucking stand that girl, like I don't even know why she came with me, I don't even know why I invited her, and there's no point. That's why I know that I wouldn't put in hand out with somebody that I know I would be miserable with, because I genuinely would be miserable. And what point is there putting me through that and putting them through that? There's no point. And it sucked because that night did really get to show me a lot of people's characters. That you put like what? There was like 24 girls in a chance and an opportunity to compete with one another. They will drag other girls' names through the mud. And that's just one of those things that's not right. I do think that for the most part, everybody who did get nominated, I think that they deserved it. Not even I know that they deserved it. I've grown up with a lot of these girls, and I wish there were some other girls in there. If I could have, like, genuinely the dream team, there's probably about 30 girls I would nominate to be up there. But there's not that many clubs. So, again, to know that I did speak and exchange words with those who I have, like, grown up with and was really excited to see them up there was really meaningful. And one of the other biggest things that I give a lot of gratitude for is that the girl who did win Queen was representing an art club, which I don't get to talk about a lot because I tend to give a lot more advice, but art club was the first club I had joined when I came to my high school. I almost freaking said my town out there. Okay, I hope to edit this out. Anyways, when I first went to my high school, that was the first club I had joined, and I had such a welcoming community. I mean, I was a freshman, so the seniors at the time were adopting me and giving me so much compassion and quick to follow me on Instagram and share laughs with me and encourage me to, do as many opportunities as I could. The sponsors of art club that year were also very enthusiastic and wanting to get to know me as an undergraduate, because again, I was a freshman. Like, it was so beautiful in the way that all of the upperclassmen had led that year, that set the stone on how I wanted to lead that club. Honestly, my goal was not to join as many clubs as I do now. Like, maybe more of the, like, academic clubs, because why am I going to say no to an academically recognized club? But my goal was really not to join other, like, kind of side clubs, because I was like, no, art club is, like, that is the club I want to represent. To say that I have artistic capabilities, but I do have the creative ability there. Like, if I could draw what I think and what comes into my head, I would be unstoppable. But there's just a reason why I can't. They just had to hinder me. But, and then my sophomore year, I had gained a leadership role in art club. I gained a leadership role as vice president, and I had the opportunity to go out and decorate our booth for the fair and all this and all that, and I had became a lot more engaged into our club. That's when I really realized, like, hey, this is my club. I really want to recognize this club. And then my junior year, I got a higher leadership role in vice president and had worked alongside one of the most beautiful souls I have ever worked alongside of. And usually I don't like to name drop, but I will probably let her know that I name dropped her name, because I would hate to just name drop it and her never see it. But being able to work alongside the president of our club, she was the president also my sophomore year, and her name was Kinley Putnam. I had been able to work alongside of her of other community projects. We had weightlifted together, and I had known her mother before I knew her, funnily enough, because I had worked alongside her mother in middle school. What a time I was in middle school. And to be able to work alongside her leadership role and styles and how much she engaged, because it's hard to work alongside somebody if they don't show passion in it. If they're just president to have that title and they don't, go out and actually do things, it's like, why do you even do this? But to see how much, like, she really loved all the projects and she did a great job leading in them, and she was always quick to, get everybody involved. That was, like, one of those other footsteps I was like, I really want to follow. I mean, my freshman year, I had already seen so many of those seniors set footprints that I was like, I want to follow those. But really working alongside Kinley, I was like, no, I really want to follow those. And, once again, when it came this year that she had passed over that leadership role to me at the end of the spring semester this year, I was really honored, first of all, to uptake that role. But I made sure that if I did, it wasn't even just letting the club down. I also knew I wasn't going to let her down. And to say that our club is my club, it's my baby club. And being able to have the queen, who was crowned Friday night, be a representative of that club was really beautiful. I worked alongside of her in talking and endorsing her, honestly, because once again, our club is one of my favorite clubs. So I did do a great deal of endorsing her as much as I could, because I wasn't at school. But to see her win was also just really beautiful, to know that, hey, she didn't just represent herself that night, but she also represented a little bit of my favorite club. It was like an all come together moment. And at the end of the day, this is a bit longer episode, but I really want to leave one of the biggest messages is that if you are going to do something, give it your all. Give it your all and do it a way that you want to do it, because at the end of the day, it's your life. And if you want to live life with the imprints that you leave them. But don't be surprised when somebody walks in and it gets lost and they're like, what the heck? You did a bad job leaving your footprints. They're leading me to nowhere. So sometimes you do have to be conscious, and it is a little difficult as I'm starting to get older and I'm really starting to be a bit more selective with the people I spend my time with and my company with, and realizing that there are people that I have shared laps with and that I couldn't do that to this day because we just outgrew each other and we grew on different paths. But it's one of those things that, I'll never give shade or disrespect or anything like that. If I was in a room with them, I'd always, still be respectful. But to say that we could share, like, the same intimate moments that we did when we were younger is hard to say. But yeah, I did wear a suit to homecoming, and I made it a court, and so that's me documenting this. I don't have any, like, little videos or vlogs, but, it was an opportunity of a lifetime that, like I will always say, I'm grateful to have had and to be able to go up there and represent. And I really hope that for future years to come that there are other people who take, honestly, if anything, braver steps than I did, because it would have been cool if I was able to leave a message, talk to everybody, but I didn't. So, yeah. Also, I shout you guys out because I did get to put my podcast on there, and that was pretty awesome. And also get to put my summer camp job out there. My favorite job. Actually, every job I work is my favorite job. I wouldn't work anywhere that I would be miserable at. So, as always, guys, be you, stay true to yourself, and yeah, I will see you guys later.